"Step back, old man, or you're next." That's what one of them said, right before they fired a taser into my wife's chest. They had their weapons aimed at me next. I didn't shout. I didn't run. I simply locked eyes with the man in charge and spoke 5 calm, unwavering words. "Call General Rohr. Right now." And just like that, the entire SWAT team stopped cold. If 5 words can freeze trained professionals mid-operation, that says something. It says something about the weight of earned respect, about those who once served and never truly stopped. The neighbors on Oakwood Drive knew Roy Tanner as the guy who could fix anything with an engine. He was a regular presence in the neighborhood. His garage doors usually open on weekends, the hum of tools and classic rock floating through the crisp suburban air. At 68 years old, his hands weren't as steady as they used to be, but they still remembered how to solve mechanical puzzles most people wouldn't even attempt. What they didn't know was his past. 27 years of military service, missions that had no names in places no one publicly acknowledged, medals that stayed in a shoebox instead of being mounted on any wall. Roy preferred it that way. He'd rather be known for fixing carburetors than for the kinds of missions that never make it into history books. Only Linda, his wife, knew everything. She had stood by him when the nightmares came, when the invisible wounds lingered, and when the scars, both seen and unseen, needed someone to help carry them. 43 years of marriage had survived deployments, silences, the quiet ache of transition from soldier to civilian. Their modest ranch-style home was their sanctuary. Roy gave his time to others, volunteering at the VFW on Thursdays, building wheelchair ramps for disabled veterans on Saturdays, and teaching auto shop at the local high school on Tuesdays, often mentoring the kids everyone else had written off. Then came a Wednesday afternoon that should have been forgettable. Roy was under Mrs. Henderson's ancient Buick, changing the oil as a favor. Linda was at Palmer's Market taking advantage of the senior discount. The September air smelled faintly of leaves and wood smoke. Everything seemed normal until the tires screeched. Not the casual kind of noise. It was sharp, deliberate, violent. Roy slid out from beneath the car, wiping his hands, confused. The first black SUV skidded to a stop in his driveway. 3 more followed. Men in tactical gear leapt out like a well-oiled machine, rifles drawn, helmets on, masks hiding their faces. "Police! Everyone down now!" Roy raised his hands, grease still on his fingers. He stood slowly. "There must be some mistake," he began. A rifle barrel shut him up. "Down! Now!" So he complied. Concrete pressed against his cheek. Boots thudded around him. Through the chaos, he heard one officer bark, "Secure the house!" Another officer zip-tied his wrists behind his back. Then came Linda. Her car coasted into the driveway. She stepped out, grocery bags in both hands. The smile on her face vanished into confusion. "Roy? What's happening?" 3 officers immediately turned toward her, weapons aimed at her 65-year-old frame. "Drop the bags! Hands where we can see them!" Linda froze. "Please, I'm just—" she tried. "She's not complying!" a young officer shouted, his voice cracking from adrenaline. "Ma'am, final warning!" She began lowering the bags, her arthritic hands trembling under pressure. "Non-compliant subject!" the young officer declared, then surged forward and fired. The taser hit her. Her body jerked violently. The grocery bags burst, eggs smashed, apples rolled, milk splashed. She collapsed like a puppet whose strings had been cut. Roy didn't scream, didn't plead. Years of training came back in a heartbeat. He kept his focus. And then he looked at the man in charge, his voice low, firm, unmistakable. "Call General Rohr. Right now." Time stopped. The commander blinked, caught between confusion and instinct. Guns still aimed, radios still crackling, but something shifted in the air. One of the officers scoffed. "That's supposed to scare us, old man. We've got a warrant. Carlos Mendez, high-level drug trafficking. Don't drop military names to play hero." Roy's expression didn't change. "This is 4588 Oakwood Drive," he said. "You want 4588 Oakwood Avenue. That's a different zip code entirely." The commander hesitated. "And my wife has a heart condition," Roy added. "Now cut these restraints. I need to check her pulse. And while you're at it, call General James Rurick at Central Command. Use the secure line. He'll take it." Still zip-tied, Roy nodded toward his jacket. "Left inside pocket. Look, but don't touch." The commander cautiously reached into the pocket and pulled out a badge, aged, worn metal, etched with a black eagle. No regular badge. Anyone with military intel background would recognize it in a second. "Black protocol clearance," Roy said. The air went dead silent. Even the radios quieted. One of the older officers leaned into the commander's ear and whispered, "Sir, that's Tier 1. That's RU clearance." Everything changed. "Medic! Get the medic over here now!" the commander ordered. "Cut his restraints!" Freed, Roy knelt beside Linda, checking her pulse with steady, practiced fingers. Around him, the team fell apart in slow motion. One officer scrambled on his phone, likely checking Roy's identity. Another confirmed the address mismatch. The reality hit them like a slap to the face. They had hit the wrong house. "You escalated without verifying anything," Roy said quietly. "You tased a senior citizen, carrying groceries." A neighbor across the street filmed it all from his porch. Later, he'd tell reporters, "He just said 5 words, and they all lowered their weapons like someone flipped a switch." The commander approached, helmet now off, pale and shaken. "Sir, we had intelligence." Roy cut him off. "Number U had adrenaline and unchecked authority." Linda groaned softly. "Roy?" "I'm here," he whispered, lifting her gently. He turned back to the commander. "I'm taking her inside. Your team stays out here, and you will call General Rohr immediately." The young officer who'd fired the taser stood frozen, the weight of his mistake sinking in like lead. Another officer quietly gathered the spilled groceries, more symbolic than useful. As Roy guided Linda inside, the murmurs among the team confirmed everything. Database searches had confirmed who he was, and who he used to be. They hadn't raided a drug dealer's house. They'd tased the wife of a ghost. 40 minutes passed. Linda rested on the couch, ice on her chest. Roy sat beside her, hand in hers, occasionally glancing through the curtains. The SWAT team hadn't left. They stood in quiet disarray, once bold men now reduced to silence. Then the black SUV pulled up. Military plates, no sirens, no spectacle. From it emerged a man in a charcoal suit, no insignia, but the kind of posture and presence that was its own authority. General James Rohr, silver hair cut with regulation precision, 62 years old, a man who'd seen more than any one man should. He walked past the SWAT commander without a word. Roy met him at the door. They didn't speak at first. Their silence said enough. Then, with formal precision, the general saluted. Roy returned it, his first salute in 15 years. "They told me you were dead," Rohr said. "Only professionally," Roy replied. The general's eyes went to Linda, his jaw clenched. Turning to the SWAT team, he raised his voice, not shouting, but radiating command. "This man," he said, gesturing at Roy, "wrote the protocols you just violated." The older officer among the SWAT team whispered, stunned, "Tanner! R.J. Tanner! You wrote the Civilian Engagement Handbook?" Roy gave a small nod. General Rohr faced the team leader. "You didn't arrest a suspect today. You humiliated a national asset, a man with more operational expertise than your entire team combined." He turned sharply. "The officer who used the taser. Step forward." The young man did, trembling. "Your equipment. Now." The vest, the weapon, the badge, all placed silently on the hood of a squad car. "You're relieved. Report to your captain." The young man walked away, not defiant, just broken. Roar turned back to Roy and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Two things inside," he said. "A formal apology. And reinstatement of your clearances. We need you back. The world hasn't gotten any safer." Roy didn't take it. "The world never changes, James. Just the names on the uniforms. And right now, my duty is to her, and to engines that still need fixing." Roar nodded. He placed the envelope on the porch. "The offer stands." He left without another word. Roy never opened the envelope. A week later, Police Chief Brennan held a press conference. American flags behind him, cameras rolling. He announced a new program. The 5 Words Protocol. Training on de-escalation, proper identification, civilian respect. He never mentioned Roy. Didn't need to. The video had gone viral. Linda healed. The bruises faded. But something stayed different. She walked taller, made eye contact with officers. She didn't shrink. Roy? Still at the VFW, still under car hoods, still giving kids second chances. But now, every patrol car slowed by his driveway. Officers nodded first, and that black SUV, it came back. Quietly. Dropped off gifts, books, whiskey. Once, a photo, an old one, of Roy among blurred faces. Ghosts. 3 months after the raid, a rookie officer's cruiser broke down in front of Roy's house. Roy came out before the kid even called dispatch. As they worked under the hood, the young man hesitated. "Sir, at the academy they talk about you now, about what happened. You could have ended careers with one phone call. Why didn't you?" Roy tightened a bolt, paused. "Because revenge doesn't fix engines," he said, "and it doesn't fix people either." The engine started on the first try. "Thank you, sir," the officer said. "Just Roy," he replied. Later that week, a reporter caught him leaving the VFW. "Mr. Tanner, why didn't you fight back? You had the training. Why only 5 words?" Roy looked into the lens. "Because 5 words were louder than fear," he said. "And sometimes the strongest position is just standing your ground." He walked away, back to the garage, back to the life he chose, not of command, not of war, but of quiet strength. A man who once was a weapon, now choosing to be a builder.